Okay, welcome to Docmagazine. This is our Person of the Year edition. I'm honored to have my guest, Grandmaster Samuel Scott. He's actually the first Person of the Year edition for Docmagazine. And Docmagazine now has been around since 2011. Around maybe 2009, 2010, around that time, we hit over 100,000 subscribers to our radio station. And now, you know, and I mean, I've stopped keeping track since then, but so, you know, so now it's 2022. So this is now 12 years. And after 12 years of doing this, you know, it evolved into a magazine, and we now have our Person of the Year. And the Person of the Year is someone who exemplifies good character. That's first and foremost. Good character, leadership, and humility. I think these will be the three requirements: character, humility, leadership. And so Grandmaster Samuel Scott, just from the outside looking in, was selected. You know, one of my mentors in New York, he once told me, he said, the grass that's further from the sprinkler gets more water than the grass that's close up to it. And so Docmagazine is like the grass that's the furthest from the sprinkler. And sometimes when you're further away from someone, you can see them clearer than someone that's right up with them every day, looking at them every single day. So without any further ado, I want to introduce my brother, the Grandmaster Samuel Scott. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. And look, it's an honor and a privilege to be chosen. You know, when you called and gave me the news, I was humbled, you know, to the 10th power, because, you know, I just do the work, you know what I mean? And it's good to be recognized by someone who I respect and admire. And so thank you again.
Okay, and thank you. And so this will kind of be our part two. This will be more or less our follow-up to our part one. So this edition is dealing with the business mind, the business mind. One of the things that I've noticed about you is that what stands out about you, many things stand out, but one of the things that stand out is your business mind. So I'm going to first start off with my first question. How many years have you been in business, martial arts?
You know, actually, February marked 29 years for us in business, man. 29.
Wow. And so in those 29 years, what were some of the ups and downs? Can you tell us some of the ups and downs and you know, describe that path?
Well, you know, like most businesses, you know, you're gonna start out in the red, you know, because you're figuring out the whole process. And one of the things I can say that benefited me was the fact that I spent 3 years in school just understanding business. You know what I mean? I had no intention on getting a degree, just so you know. I just went to a community college just to get a handle and understand business. And so really helped me out in terms of being system driven and system focused as it relates to running a business, you know, because like this gentleman named Michael Gerber said, unless you systemize your business, you don't own a business, you own a job.
Right.
You know?
Right. Now, what programs do you offer at your school?
Currently, we offer Kung Fu for the kids. We offer Tai Chi, and we also offer self-defense, which is our combat Kuntao program. So we used to be a full service prior to COVID. Pre-COVID,
right?
We had the after-school program that was running from like 1:30 until 6, and then we had a little ninja class. From there, we went into the kids, and then we had the self-defense going on at the same time. So we had like 2 different sides of our building, if you will. The adults were on one side, kids were on the other. So everybody running simultaneously. But since COVID, we had to let go of the after-school program and the summer camp, which was near and dear to my heart, because I knew by having that after-school program, that we were saving a lot of kids, because, the most dangerous hours for kids between the hours of 3 and 6 p.m. Yeah. And so we were picking the kids up, 60, 70 kids, picking them up, bringing them to the school, and, having that homework hour, teaching them how to be disciplined and doing their homework, encouraging them to do it nice and neat, and reinforcing them with good, strong life skills, and character building traits, as well as teaching them martial arts and keeping them fit. So I really missed that program, but you know what? I figure everything happens for a reason. I think 27 years out of the 29, we had that program, and we've probably had about 4,000 to 5,000 kids come through that program.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, why the business of martial arts?
Why the business of martial arts? Probably like you, brother, when we first started out in the job market, we did any and everything, right? As a kid, I was raking the leaves, you know what I mean? I was watching cars for 25 cents, 50 cents. But I'll tell you this story. When I was in elementary school, I think it was about 7 or 8 years old. And the teacher was going around asking everybody, what do you want to be when you grow up? And all the kids were talking the same usual. They wanted to be a lawyer, doctor, police officer. So she asked us to stand up. So she said, Samuel, what do you want to be? I stood up and I said, I want to be a businessman, right? Don't forget what she said to me. She looked at me and she said, businessman? She said, oh, no, business is, that's a little difficult to do. She said, but you're good with your hands, aren't you? I said, yeah, I'm good with my hands. She said, well, you should consider being a carpenter or something. You're very creative. You should consider carpenter or mechanic, because you like cars, right? So I said, yeah, I love cars. She said, well, you should consider those, because business is very difficult. And listen, they say from birth to age 7,
right,
ever is implanted in your subconscious, kind of runs throughout your entire life. That program runs throughout your entire life. In fact, it guides you throughout your entire life.
Right.
And so when I got to middle school or high school, they had these different shops. And guess where I went? I went to the wood shop. Right. So I selected wood shop. And then when I got to high school, I selected auto mechanic. And then I went to trade school in Texas. 60 different things I could have selected. And guess what I selected? Auto mechanic.
With your hands. Yeah.
Because I was programmed. Now we fast forward. 12 years old, so I'll digress for a second. At 12 years old, I started training in martial arts, but it was strictly for self-defense. Growing up in New York, out on the island, it was strictly for self-defense. I couldn't even comprehend the philosophical piece of it. It was just survival for me, right?
Right.
But once I made it out to DC, 20, 21 years old, it started hitting me. And I said, man, martial arts has really transformed my life. And I wanted to be involved in something where I can actually help people. I think that's my place, my sweet spot is serving and helping people. So I did it all. I was a carpenter, I was a roofer, I bust dishes, I did all that, right? Carpenter, I was selling candy, all that kind of stuff. But martial arts for me was a way to transform your life and transform the lives of others. And so I don't know of a better platform than martial arts, where you can take someone from where they are and allow them or help them discover deeper levels of themselves. It's not us that's doing it, it's them. It's just that we're giving them a picture of themselves, you know what I mean? Giving them a vision of their potential. And so that's why I did 14 years as a correctional officer. I had 6 more years to retire, well, actually it was 10 more years, and then they changed it to, they did a 25-year retirement. But no intentions on staying there. I was supposed to be there 5 years, but I got comfortable, to be honest with you. But I started running the school from my basement while I was at the jail. And
hey,
so,
Grandmaster, tell us about that school at the basement. Tell us, paint the picture. What did the basement look like? What type of equipment you had in there?
yeah.
What was the training regimen like? Tell us about that.
Yes, sir. So first of all, we were in a townhouse and we decided to move into a home. So we were looking for a home that had a basement that was conducive to be a dojo, right? And so we found this location. It was probably big enough for like 8 to 10 people. And so I ran the morning class. We had 2 students in the beginning. Let me digress. We had 2 students, my son and my business partner's son. They both were around 7 years old. And so there were our 2 students. There we grew to about 18 students because I had some co-workers from the jail that trained with me in the morning. And then we had the other group that trained in the evening. Very beginnings, but listen, when we went out on the tournament circuit, no one knew that we were functioning from the basement. You know what I mean? We had our jackets, you know, and so we presented ourselves as if we were a huge school, but we were functioning right out of the basement of my home. Yes. Yeah. Some very beginnings, man, and I tell you this, you know, you have that in the back of your head all the time where people will say, you know, the first 5 years, most businesses fail the first 5 years. And, you know, I got hit all the time, especially at the jail. They're like, wait a minute, you're gonna leave? You only got 10 years, your pension and everything? Brother, listen, when I made the decision, I spoke to my ex, sat down with my kids, told them I'd be able to spend more time with them, made the decision. I walked into the jail. I bypassed the command staff, walked right to the director, handed him my resignation, effective immediately, which means I gave up 8 weeks worth of sick leave and over 100-some hours worth of vacation because I didn't really do vacation because I was competing. And so I would use a day here and a day there to travel to compete. I went in there and I gave all that up. I burned the ships. And the director at that time was a brother, and I never forget. He looked at me for about 2 seconds. And 2 seconds is a long time when you're talking to, you know, your superior as far as your job.
You're right.
You know, and he looked at me and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I can respect that. A man who wants to go out and do his own thing." He said, "You go out there, and if it doesn't work within the first year," he said, "come back and I'll give you your job back." Now, I appreciated that, but brother, I had no intentions on going back.
Speaking of jobs, I just want to talk about that for a minute. You know, a lot of times people hear correctional officer and they may say, oh man, they may say that the biggest stress will come from the inmates. Or you could be a teacher. They may say, oh, the biggest stress will come from the students. You could be whatever. You could work in corporate, whatever the case may be. But from my experience, I've always found that the biggest stress always comes from people above you, administration that has power over you. Now, number one, do you see some truth in that? And if so, why do you think that is? And how should people deal with people that's over them?
Yeah, that's a total truth. That's an exact matter of fact. I had no problems at the jail, zero, as it relates to the inmates, because number one, I respected them as men and women, first and foremost. I never had to use martial arts, you know, outside of a control hold or something like that. Never kicked or punched or elbowed anybody. I used this, you know, and I used this. And so I had no problem. I walked in their communities. I went to their malls. All the officers thought I was crazy to go to these particular malls. They said, that's where all the inmates at. It's no problem by me, because I respected them. The challenge was definitely the command staff, because the command staff wanted you to have that mentality of us against them.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of the officers had that mentality, but I refused to have it because, see, I know my history. I know where I come from. You know what I mean? And we all went through something as it relates to the law. You know, that's, for me, it was kind of rites of passage. It was just part of your upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see these guys in a situation like that, you have to recognize, first and foremost, that they're men and you treat them with respect. And so, because at the end of the day, every day I walked in there, there was a chance that I wasn't going to walk out.
Mm.
And I never told my family that until after I resigned.
Mm.
Yeah. But the command staff was always the challenge because they wanted you to be this tyrant where you talk down to them and you distance yourself from them. One day, the supervisor told me, he said, we don't really fraternize, with the inmates. I said, well, I don't fraternize. He said, well, I just saw you over there talking to them. I said, yeah, I do talk to them. I talk to them, but I don't fraternize.
Yeah.
And that's just it. But the issue, that's not going away. It's always going to be the people that are quote unquote running the show because they're disconnected.
Right, disconnected.
They're disconnected and they're not in there. They don't feel, they don't understand, they can't comprehend. They just, they're by the numbers.
And they're totally committed to, like you said, their vacation days, their life, the way everything is set up. They're not trying to rock the boat because they have to, because this finances their heaven.
Yes, exactly.
So, Grandmaster, what does being a martial arts school owner means to you?
It first of all, it means leadership. It means taking your role as a leader extremely serious.
Yeah.
Extremely serious. And that cuts through rank, it cuts through titles, it cuts through status. Because at the end of the day, leadership is influence and leadership is service to others. And to me, it's a gift by both the creator and by the people that I teach. I'm grateful that they trusted me to lead and guide them through this whole process called the martial way. So to me, I'm honored by that. And that's, I think, where a lot of us kind of miss the point because we think because the title says that we're a master or grandmaster, that now all of a sudden we're here and they're there, and then we speak to them from that perspective, when in reality, we should be under them, lifting them. That's what leadership is, lifts people up to the point of leadership, not speak them and then take them on a fisherman journey where they constantly finally feeding them every day, technique after technique after technique, but no substance. And that's what, to me, and that's what to me what martial arts is all about. Yes, it's about the art. It's about protecting your freedom and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it's about cultivating your mind, body, and spirit. Discovering what your potential is as a human being. What is our potential? And then while you're sharing with them what their potential is, you got to constantly be discovering what your potential is. So we got to stop sitting back with the belt and just saying, I'm here now. And so now we're going horizontal because we're not continuing to grow, but we're growing in terms of weight because we don't feel like we have to do the work anymore. And they're looking at us and they're starting to see that we're disconnected because our actions are not in line with what we're teaching. And so we have to be that example. And there's no shade on anybody. It's just that we have to be that example. Every day, you have to guard your tongue. We have to guard our tongue. How we speak to people in public and how we interact with people, how we speak to our significant other, how we speak to our children. Because you can't be like part-time. You can't walk into school and I'm Master Scott and everybody do what I say. Then they catch me in the grocery store cursing out somebody because they try to cut in front of me.
Right. No, you're right.
You see? So it's a life journey of studying, practicing, and then teaching.
Well, like I said, Grandmaster, I'm coming from a whole nother style, and I recognize something special about you to the point where you've been recommended as the person of the year. So, I mean, this very interview, this magazine edition is a testament that you can point to. It's
Yes,
something
sir.
that you can point to in reality and say, hey, someone independent of me, you didn't pay me. I didn't, it was independent. It was just an observation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's why
an observation was made in the community, and someone stood out bright like a star.
brother, let me say this. I very rarely go to banquets and all the different things that's out there. There's nothing wrong with it, but I don't do the yearly, they look for a different title and then they, and then you pay. And I just stay away from those things because if you don't know me, right, how can you give me an award for something that you don't even know me? So when you told me and you mentioned to me why, it was very moving because I don't look, I just work. You know what I mean? And to me, the greatest gift I can receive is from someone who stands from afar, observes the work, and say, that's the quality of leadership, or that's the quality of being a martial artist. And so again, I'm very humble, very humble.
Yeah, and I'm humbled to be able to do the interview.
Yes, sir.
Next question. What were some of your best practices that kept you going for so many years?
As I mentioned, the first thing was going and getting that formal understanding about business, right? That was critical. Because everybody was in my ear, right? Everybody was like, oh, this is when you go in business, you got to have two books, you know what I mean? And one is what you show the IRS, and the other one is this. And don't show all your cash and all this stuff. All these people coming to me trying to get me to start off wrong. And I was like, you know what? Now I'm doing business by the numbers, right? So I got audited in the basement. And so that was a wake-up call for me. And so I would say that was the starting point, investing in myself in terms of that formal education, but then investing in the leaders that were doing it right. You know what I mean? There was an organization called NAPMA, which is National Association of Professional Martial Artists. They started about a year, I think, before I opened the school up. And their idea was to professionalize the martial art business, And I gotta say, man, they did a phenomenal job. In the beginning, they did a phenomenal job. And so I would order the monthly. It was $99. That was about the only thing I can afford back then. So I paid the $99, and I just followed and kept my finger on the pulse in terms of what was the latest, what was the newest, what was out there that the industry leaders were doing, right?
Right.
That was the second thing. And then constantly investing in myself over and over and over. In the beginning, brother, couldn't invest any more than $69, $70. So if there's a seminar that was over $79, I wasn't going because I couldn't afford it. But it was my mindset. It was my mindset. I didn't understand the whole get what you pay for access. Finally, when I started really investing, I invested over $300,000. I don't know if I mentioned that before. But I invested over $300,000 in my personal development.
Wow.
And trained by, I've been to Dan Kinley stuff. I've been to a bunch of masterminds at $1,000, $1,500, $2,500 a month. You'd have asked me back in the day, anything over $60, $79, I wouldn't go. But when I made that decision to go to see Tony Robbins at $1,200, it was a game changer. Because it's like you step into a different environment where the game is played on a much higher level. And so that was the other benefit, was investing in myself till this day, investing in myself.
You know, Grandmaster, that's something powerful. And what you just said is a trait of successful people. It's a hallmark trait of successful people. They invest in themselves. You know, me being in working with the public, I try to do self-development as well. I'm actually just last night, I ordered this book. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
I just purchased it for my Kindle. And I said tonight, after I'm done with this interview, I'm gonna try to read it. But I read a little bit. You know how on Amazon, they have the look inside, the little. So I looked inside, and man, when I looked inside, that's actually what captivated me when I wanted to buy the book. So it talks about this criminal named, I think his name was Will Carnegie or Ron Crowley or something like that. Let's just call him Mr. Crowley.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Crowley was one of the most dangerous criminals from New York. He had shot these cops. And so they narrowed him down to an apartment down on the west end of Manhattan. And so they had all these police officers with their guns drawn. He takes out his gun. He starts firing at the officers. When they apprehend him, Mr. Crowley says, but deep down but if the world only knew, deep down inside, I'm really a nice guy. So this same criminal now is sentenced to the death penalty. He gets the death penalty. And as he's waiting for his death sentence, they asked him a question, and he says, well, this is what you get for, so instead of saying this is what you get for taking people's lives, because he murdered a lot of people, right, he said, this is what you get for defending yourself.
Wow.
He said, this is what you get for defending yourself. So at no point of his process of his demise did he do any type of reflection. Did he try to take any accountability? Because when he shot at the cops, when he had a gun battle, he said, I'm really a nice guy inside. When he's facing capital punishment, he says, this is what you get for defending yourself.
Wow. And
I just found that to be so profound.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about self-development, clearly Mr. Crowley didn't have self-development, but one of the things that Mr. Crowley could have probably benefited from was a serious self-reflection. Do you do self-reflection? And if you do self-reflection, what are some of the processes that you go through or that you incorporate in your self-reflection?
Yes, sir.
For your self-development?
Yes, sir. Every morning, and that's a great question. Every morning, before I start my day, I set my intentions. I have my moment of gratitude. I call it the hour of power, something I've got from Tony Robbins. I have my hour of power, right? And it starts out with a moment of gratitude. I'm just being still in meditative posture. And I start with myself, just grateful to have, waking up that morning, right? Yeah. Then I go to my family, my children rather, and then my family. And then I, kind of think about what it is I want to accomplish that day. And then how many people I'm going to add value to, right? Whether it's just a conversation or acknowledgement, it's set in my intentions before I even get started. That's every single day, right? And that's my ritual. That's my ritual. And then I do what I call a state change, because really at the end of the day, your reality is based on what your state is at that moment, right? And so we're getting hit all day long by these different messaging, the violence, all kinds of craziness. And so I set my state to be in a very high receive state where I'm excited, I'm motivated, I'm positive. It's emulating, it's permeating, I should say, off of me, and it just puts me in that space where I'm just at peace. I want to serve. I'm here to grow. You follow me? And so that's the ritual every single day.
Man, that's a good ritual. That's a good ritual. Next question. What are some basic business principles that are missing in a lot of unsuccessful schools?
You know, I've been to a lot of schools, been to a lot of tournaments over the years, and a lot of the schools that aren't as successful as they should be, or you have people working a full-time job and sometimes a full-time and a part-time, and then they come to the school. Sometimes it's the mindset of the instructor. Because see, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so when you look at a school and that school is not successful, it's not that they're in a bad neighborhood, or although it possibly be that, but 9 times out of 10, it's the mindset of the instructor. And so if you have an instructor who treats the school like a hobby, then that's the culture that's going to be in that school. And so they're going to kind of put a ceiling on themselves where every time someone comes to them with an idea about how to grow the business, best business practices, they're gonna fire back with, I'm old school, which is a safety net for them, because what they're really saying is, I'm too fearful to step out and go and take my business to the next level. So I'd rather just keep it as a hobby. I'm in control. You follow me? It's my school. You know, I got my 10 or 20 students. I'm good. And it's sad because, I mean, I can tell you all day long that it's a lack of business practice, a lack of systems, it's a lack of customer service, a lack of client service, it's a lack of consistency. I can go right down the list, because that is the result of the wrong mindset. And so those problems can be fixed by fixing the leadership. You follow me? And so I set out, to be honest with you, about 20 years ago, I set out to bring martial artists together, you know, and say, hey guys, let's come together and let's learn this thing together, and let's form this united front for our community in particular, right? Because we got challenges in our community. And so let's come together and be that representation for our young kids, be the representation for the women in our community, right? Let them see what men look like. Let the women see what women look like. And let's do this thing the right way, right? And it started out fine, right? But then the ego got in the way. The first time you go to their school and you go try to edify them and do a seminar for them, they see that their students are responding to you, and they feel like the light is coming off of them. And then there goes the neighborhood. And so after a while, brother, I said, you know what? There's too much ego in the martial art world.
Yeah.
And I can't spend the time trying to fix that. So the only thing I can do is focus on what I'm doing, and those that are in alignment with growing and going to the next level, like Soka Hassan and some of the other brothers that I know, those are the people I align with. But at the end of the day, it's the mindset. Because once you fix that mindset, then they're gonna automatically say, wait a minute, I need to get here on time every time. A test at our school, brother, for 20 years, if the test is started at 1:30, the test starts at 1:30, not 1:31. It starts at 1:30. The school doors, if the school open at 12 o'clock, it opens at 12. There's no deviation because you have to look at the client as the most important person on the planet, you know, and our clients are smart. Make no mistake about it. The clients are smart. And if they sense that you're there for the money, if they sense that you're not dialed in, and that's the challenge that a lot of foreigners have when they come into our community. But then you have the brainwashing of the clients because they think because they're from another country, they must know everything. So they allow them to disrespect their children. See, they can't connect to our community. And so that's another thing, or another reason why the leadership in the community in that school, they have to be dialed into what the community needs, right? And what they want. The need is one thing, right? But what do they want? You see? And once they tell you what they want, then you provide it to them. And once you provide them that, you give them what they need.
You know, Grandmaster, you said something, a key word that you said that I think is just so needed, and it's professionalism. For people who may think they're professional, or for people who are professional, what does it take to become professional? Like what is the process to develop professionalism?
Yes. Okay, first and foremost, again, back to mindset. Who are you? The first thing a school owner needs to do is look in the mirror. Who are you? Forget the title, forget the facade. Who are you? And what is your purpose? Right? Once you establish that, then you can start setting a standard in your school, setting a ritual in your school, setting a culture in your school. But it starts with you. How do you dress when you come in? How fit are you in their presence? How do you speak? See? How do you speak? How do you articulate? Do you know the client's names? Right? Do you call when the child is out sick? Do you follow up with people? How do you speak on the phone when people call your school? How do you look at people when they come into your school? What's your rule for people that open the door and come into your school? We have a 3-foot rule, brother. No one can walk in that school and take 3 steps without someone speaking. I don't care if the person's on the other side of the building. They have to yell from the other side of the building, how are you doing? I'll be right there. You know, we don't point to our clients and say, oh, the shoe case is over there. We walk over there and we show them where the shoe case is at. Small things like that, folks. People want to feel appreciated. Once they feel appreciated, then you can go in and do the work. People don't care about what you know until they know how much you care. And I know it's a cliche, but if we can get away from cliche and say, wait a minute, what's the meaning behind that? If you look at that, it will be game over.
You know, what you said reminds me of I heard this wisdom. I don't know who said it, but it's so profound. But they said, sometimes it's not what you say to people. They said sometimes it's not, people don't remember what you say sometimes, but they remember how you made them feel. All the time.
They won't remember what you said. They won't remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And that's humbling. That's humbling for me because there was a time where I used to disagree with somebody and I would just flat out just disagree. And it would turn into, this, because I had this thing about if I'm right, I want you to understand that I'm right. Mother said to me one day, and she was the type of person where she didn't say a lot. She said to me, she said, you don't have to always be right, son. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, no, if you're right. She said, no. She said, you don't have to always be right. Sometimes you gotta let people be right. If that's their reality, let them be right. And she was absolutely right, because when I started really understanding psychology, human psychology, that's exactly right. People have their own model of reality. And that's why people can look at the same accident or the same scenario and it'd be 8 of them, you get 8 different scenarios. Process it. So
my next question, Grandmaster, is how do you deal with the naysayers or haters as it relates to owning a successful business?
That's a quick answer. I don't. Yeah, I don't. And that's a practice, right? Because when you're doing right and you feel like you're serving, it's a natural desire to be appreciated, right? But the reality is, no matter how good you do, there's always going to be someone out there that has something to say. And so you have to look at the fact that who is the person that's talking? See? It's not the person that's successful. Successful people don't have time to talk about other people. They're too busy trying to figure out how to become more successful.
Right.
So it's always the person who's at the root. If you peel away at that naysayer, at the root is just fear. They have a fear. They're envious. They're jealous because you're in a place where they desire to be. You have an attraction that they desire to have, right? And you're in a position that they desire to be in. So instead of humbling themselves and say, "Look, I want to learn from you or help me," they'd rather just stand and say, "Oh, or wait for you to fall. Like, as soon as you fall or you miss that, oh, see?" And so you just gotta accept the fact that, you know what? Haters are gonna hate. And we all have a role in life. We all have a role to play in life. You have your role to play. Your role here, which is a very significant role because you use your platform to spread positive news, to inspire people all around the world. My role is to be on the floor and get people to discover deeper levels of themselves, right? Their role is to get up in the morning and see what they can talk about, who they can talk about, who they can hate. That's it. You're gonna have people in the stands, and you're gonna have people on the field playing the game.
And it's unfortunate to be a hater because when you see a person that's successful, man, you should be running to that.
Right.
You should be trying to become that person's friend.
Right. Exactly. But let's talk about that. Why don't they? Because of what the program that's running in their head. See, maybe they had a childhood, experience or a tragedy or something or upbringing that they haven't been able to break the ceiling or change the program, right? And so there's a bit of empathy with them, like I don't dislike them. I feel sorry for them because all of us are not going to be able to, one, identify and be aware of the fact that, yeah, we are pretty much in the matrix. And make a decision to come out of that matrix, which means turning inward and doing the internal work and then changing that program and ultimately changing the whole operating system.
Right, the whole operating system. That's right.
Until that happens, they're going to constantly be, and that's why people that are in certain neighborhoods, like I got certain people in my neighborhood, they're still there. Like that place, was like ground zero, and they're still there. So we have to say it's unfortunate, but at the same time, we help those who want to be helped. The rest of them, you got to let them live out their life. I know people right now. They call me and they talk about what people are saying about them, and I listen to them as long as they want to talk. And the first thing I say to them, and what role do they play? Like what role do they play in your life? Are they the ones that make the decision in terms of you going to the next level, in terms of you pursuing your dreams? No. So why put so much energy into them?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're giving them your power.
Right.
Out when you allow a person, because you dumb yourself down subconsciously. You ever see people go places at the event and then they go to get a water, like, oh, not, yeah, I tried, I'm just glad to be here. They don't even believe that they deserve to have what they're being awarded for, because they don't want this Grandmaster to be upset or that Grandmaster to be upset. No. You have to stand firm. If you're doing the work and you're being appreciated and acknowledged, stand on that. And if they can't accept the fact that you're growing and you're discovering deeper levels of yourself, that's too bad. That's too bad. That's shame on them. Shame on them.
I'm gonna switch gears, Grandmaster. I'm gonna ask you a question. I hope this is not too personal. But can we talk about the tragedy that struck during the first of the year?
Yeah. Yeah, it was an unfortunate situation. It was January 30th, I believe. It was that Saturday, which was the 29th. We had a huge class. I don't know what happened that particular day, but everybody came out. So you know how it is when there's a lot of people in class, energy's high. And we just had a really great class. The weather was nice. And so we rolled out about 3:30 that evening, and I was home, just crashed out. About 1 o'clock in the morning, my sister-in-law, Guru Johanna Williams, called me and she said, meet me at the school. Student just called and they said the school's on fire. Brother, listen, I thought I was dreaming at first. I was out the door in 5 minutes. It was like 18 degrees outside.
Wow.
As I'm pulling up, there were so many fire trucks, like I couldn't even get anywhere near the school. So I had to go around and come across the street. When I got there, brother, they had cranes on both sides of the building shooting water down into the school, meaning the roof had caved in. And it looked like a towering inferno. And I lost everything. Thank God it didn't take place when we were in there, right? At the same time, though, 29 years of history been wiped out. I had over 300 fights, and all of those memorabilia were there, right? Awards, Pioneer Awards, Instructors of the Year, and all these awards from people who I admired, Grandmasters that I admired, and they're gone. They passed away, so I can never get those back. Gifts from when I was in China and Panama and Abu Dhabi, in China in 2007, a master walked into the hotel we were at and just grabbed my shoulder and turned me around. And I'm looking at the guy like, who is this guy that's pulling on me? He pulls out a tape measure and he starts measuring me out. 3 days later, brother, he came back with 2 beautiful silk uniforms as a gift for me. Those kind of things. To me, like, I'm very sentimental, and it's the little things, right, that makes all the difference in the world. And not to mention the $30,000 worth of equipment and supplies and all that stuff. That stuff can be replaced. But you look at it, you have your moment, and then when you wake up that morning, you're on the stage, and you got to make things happen.
Well, Grandmaster, in your rebuilding, give me 30 days. Give Docmagazine approximately 30 days. Within 30 days, Docmagazine will put in the mail your Person of the Year plaque and award. So at least this could be one of the newer things in the rebuild that you can now put up in your business.
Yes, sir. I'm honored for that, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Much.
Now that you're approaching 30 years in business, what's next?
You know what, man? I'll be honest with you. I still feel like the first day. Like, I still have the same energy, brother. Still want to be on the floor. Still want to teach. I still jump out there with the kids, you know. But I think now I'm going more global. I want to come from behind the four walls and take the culture, the concept of personal development, of martial excellence, and impact lives all around the world. And so, yes, I have instructor certification programs that I'm doing that are online, which, by the way, if you'd asked me to do that 10 years ago, whatever, there'd have been absolutely out of the question, right? But that's why we should never say never. And that's why we should never call ourselves old school. Because the way you become successful is you learn how to adapt. And as time adapts and adjusts, right? That old school, when people say that, that's their way to default out of growing, of evolving. You follow me?
Right.
So for me, that's why I had the drive-by belt test during COVID. Like who does that? Like a drive-by. I did it. Right. Because why did I do it? Because my focus is on my clients, on my students, you follow what I'm saying? And so, was it popular with the masters and the grandmasters? No, a lot of them, no. But I don't care. I don't care about what they think. I care about my students. I care about my clients. I care about my parents. I care about the culture of the school. So yeah, we had a drive-by testing. We had online training. I was sitting in the basement trying to figure out how to do the moves. I had the whole mirror effect thing going on. And so I'm trying to go left. And I'm like, but look, we made it happen. We made it happen, right? And so now I have about 6 people who were strictly online that passed the certification and I think you notice about me, brother, you're not just getting a belt from me. You're not just getting a certificate from me. These guys performed at 90 percentile by doing the training. Now, we did have some live training. Like a Saturday, I would go on and do live training. And so now it works. I want to take that global. I want to go to the next level with the Warriors Against Trafficking. You know, I think that's something we were off to a good start, but then COVID hit and everybody's mindset shifted to survival, trying to see, and rightly so. But I know that's a powerful program that can have a serious impact as it relates to women and teens. And so I want to put a little more time into that. And then, just travel the world and bring this almost like the good news, like the passage around and spread the good news. I want to go around and spread this whole martial way, because think about this for a second, brother. Tomorrow when you walk out or you go to your job, and you probably do it already, but just kind of look at everybody and tell me what you see, not what you see with your 2 eyes, what you see with your mind's eye. Tell me what you see. Tell me if you see people that are in this maze or in this matrix, and they're getting up in a box house, and they're getting into a box car, and they drive into a box office, and then they're gonna get back into the box car, and back to the box house, and they're gonna repeat.
What you said is so powerful. It reminds me to tell you what I see. Les Brown, I would say it best. Les Brown says, you're dead with a heartbeat.
There you go. There you go. There you go. In a nutshell. And so why am I saying that? Because I don't know if people need mechanics anymore. I think people need mind shifts. You know what I mean? Mechanics is mechanics. Like there are surgical martial artists all throughout the communities, all throughout the country. Surgical. But how often do we get out here and kick or punch or take somebody out? How often do we do that? Maybe once, maybe twice, incident happens, right? But how often are we interacting with people?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? How often are we engaging? How often are we negotiating? How often are we encouraging, inspiring the kids in our family, the kids in the schools? How often are we doing that work? It's consistent. Mm-hmm. And so shouldn't the effort be in that space, personal development? You see? And so that was one of our secrets. I know you asked earlier about what was able to sustain us. It was because Full Circle was all about personal development. Martial arts, yeah, I mean, the techniques, yeah, for the kids, the techniques were for entertainment. Because you gotta, I ain't gonna say trick them, but you gotta make them think they're coming in and have fun. Mm-hmm. And then when they're there and they're exhausted and they're sweating, you get in their head. Mm-hmm. You have them stand there and be still.
Right.
And look in the mirror.
From talking to you, it seems as though the natural progression for you would be life coach, motivational speaker.
I've heard that a couple of times, and I always say, I said, guys, I'm not a motivational speaker, but I get it. I get it because I'm more of a person who inspires, right, folks to leap or step. And
that's why I said life coach, because life coach to me is different from motivational speaker, because as a life coach, motivational speaker to me is for someone who already has their self-starters. They just need, like you said, that they just need that extra or just another perspective to add to what they're already thinking. But a life coach to me is like, it's more kinesthetic, like it's hands-on. It's like, someone who really needs to be guided to show me, like you said, the way.
Right. Now, it's funny you mentioned that because I have a life coach certification from, I don't remember what year it was, because I was going in that direction, right? And then I was like, nah, I'm gonna just get back on the floor, do my martial arts. But then I went and studied NLP, and then I went and got certified under John Maxwell as a speaker, trainer, and coach. So it's funny because I'm doing the martial thing because it's my passion, but the calling is different, right? Your passion is from in here, but the calling is from above. And I constantly keep feeling like I'm being pulled in that direction quietly. So you kind of pulled it out of me, because in reality, I kept dipping and going over there. So, okay, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And then my sister, other friend, my sister is a very no-nonsense person. Mm-hmm. And she said, you have a way of speaking that inspired. She said, like, you had me, inspired. And she doesn't really say much. So to hear her say that, and then to hear from other people, I'm like, maybe is that the calling? What's going on here? Mm-hmm. So, but we'll see what happens, right? I'm doing a little influencing work on social media, you know what I mean? Every morning doing the piece and Monday morning messaging. And I got a group called No Excuse Nation, where I'm...
Say it again. What is it called?
No Excuse Nation.
Right. I'm a member of that. Yeah, I'm a member of that group. Yeah.
There we go. You can attest to what's going on there. You know what I mean? Just taking people where they are and saying, I don't like where I'm at. I'm not comfortable here. I know there's more to me, and I'm willing to level up. And then we all help and support that person, whatever their deal is, whatever their goal is. So not dictating per se, but saying, where do you want to go? What are you willing to do to get there? And then everybody helps that person or help each other get there.
My last two things on that point is, um, 90% of heart attacks happens Monday morning at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m.
Wow.
You know, people are going to jobs every day that they hate. Like you said, going back to that box. And 90% of heart attacks is people, they're just dropping dead right there on that job. You know, so imagine if they would have had the life coach prior to that heart attack, because
Wow.
Monday is in what, 2 more days. So if you go by statistics, it's going to be another heart attack in 2 days at 9 o'clock.
Wow. Wow.
So, you know, think about that market. And then also think about, if I'm not mistaken, I think the African-American community, youth, has one of the highest suicide rates in the nation.
Mm. Wow.
So you have thousands of Black youth killing themselves every day. You have 90% of people having heart attacks at 9 o'clock on a Monday. So look at that. That's a huge undeserved market.
Yes, 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 yes. You're right. You're right. And especially with the tension we have in society now, you know, the violence and the madness in politics and so on and so forth right now. I mean, everybody is feeling a sense of uncertainty, you know.
My last question, Grandmaster, is how would you like to be remembered?
One word: sincere. And in all honesty, I got that from Malcolm X, because I studied all the great leaders, and Dr. King, you know, all of them. And I watched Malcolm and just saw how dedicated he was, you know, to the people, right?
Yeah.
And when they asked him that, he said sincere. And you had to look at him and say, wow, you know, he was really, really, really sincere. Well, regardless of political things or religious beliefs and all that stuff, I'm talking about his heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, you know what? I feel the same way. Like I want to be remembered as sincere, someone who genuinely cared about people and about the struggle, our struggle in particular, but the struggle of poor people, the struggle of Black people in particular, the struggle of women. You know what I mean? I have this brother, violating women is a kryptonite for me. Like I can't take people yelling and screaming and violating women. That's my kryptonite. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's why at the school, the women know that they're protected and respected. Mm-hmm. Highest level. And so I just want to be remembered as the person who was genuine in all of that, right? In all of my beliefs and all of my intentions and all that I said I was going to do, because every day my goal is to make sure that my actions are aligned with my words. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, all we have is our word.
Grandmaster, I want to say this was a great interview. You know, Docmagazine, you know, the word doc, you know, I created this memory of Dr. Moses Powell. And one of the things that you said that made me think of Doc is when I asked you the question about professionalism. And you said, you have to look in yourself. You have to look at yourself. And one of the things that Dr. Powell would say was, when you look in the mirror at 2 o'clock in the morning, who do you see?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I saw that connection between two great men.
Yes.
So, man, I want to thank you for this interview. Like I said, give me 30 days. You'll definitely get your award and your plaque from Docmagazine. I'll get your address and I'll mail it out to you. And I'll let you have the final words.
Man, you know, thank you so much. To even be considered, you know, even amongst someone who is so amazing in my eyes, Dr. Moses Powell, I'm humbled. But, you know, we all learn from our ancestors and from our masters, you know, and I think the greatest gift we can give them is to continue the legacy, to continue the gift that they gave us And so even though I wasn't a formal student of Doc, I was still a student of Doc's. You follow me? Because his words, his deeds, his actions, you know, it inspired us all. We were all kids, you know? And so in my final word, I just want to say, you know, let's continue to be the representation for our community, you know, for the people that need to see what men look like, what women look like, what warriors look like. Let's struggle every day to avoid degrading each other, disrespecting each other, you know, pulling each other down. I know it's a far reach, but I'm going to close with it because I just believe that we have the ability. We are God's creation. Like, we're not ants. We're not animals, even though some of them are smarter than we are. But we have the ability. We can do it. We can inhale and exhale and change overnight. So I just want to close with, you know, let's be that change that we want to see in the world. Period.
Thank you, Grandmaster, for this interview.
Thank you so much, brother.
Take care, sir.
All right, take good care.